Princess Zyra of the Luminari Dominion stood at the edge of the docking terrace, her translucent ceremonial cloak rippling in the artificial wind. Below her, the capital spire of Aurelian Prime glowed like a lattice of living stars. She had been raised among philosophers, warriors, and diplomats whose thoughts could bend light and whose voices could command fleets. So when the council assigned her a human escort, she did not bother hiding her disappointment. Humans were a recent addition to interstellar politics, physically fragile, psionically silent, and culturally chaotic, tolerated mostly for their persistence and strange talent for surviving impossible odds. To Princess Zyra, they were an embarrassment to the refined order of the galaxy. The escort waited several steps behind her, posture relaxed, eyes forward, wearing a simple dark uniform without insignia or ornament. His name was Elias Ward. No noble lineage, no psychic glow, no visible enhancements. He might as well have been furniture. "You will walk behind me and speak only when spoken to," Zyra said coolly, not turning her head. "Your presence is symbolic, not essential." "Yes, Your Highness," Elias replied calmly, his voice steady and unoffended, which annoyed her more than resistance would have. The delegation ship was preparing to depart for Caraxes, a neutral moon hosting the Tri-Conclave Summit. Tensions were high, ancient rivalries simmered beneath layers of protocol, and Zyra was expected to shine as the voice of luminary superiority. Having a human shadow her, every step felt like an insult disguised as diplomacy. As they boarded the vessel, Zyra noted how other species glanced at Elias with mild curiosity or dismissal. None sensed anything remarkable about him, and that confirmed her belief: worthless escort, unnecessary burden. During the journey, she tested him, asking questions designed to expose ignorance or provoke missteps. Elias answered when required, succinct and precise, offering no opinions, no ego, no attempt to impress. It was infuriating. "Do humans truly believe themselves equals to elder races?" she asked at one point, her eyes glowing faintly with amusement. "We believe survival earns a seat at the table," Elias answered. "Nothing more, nothing less." Zyra scoffed softly, turning away. Survival without elegance, without psychic resonance, without destiny. She wondered how such a species had reached the stars at all. What she did not notice was how Elias memorized every corridor, every crew member's face, every fluctuation in engine hum, how his calm gaze reflected constant calculation, how his stillness was not emptiness, but restraint. When the ship docked at Caraxes, the air was thick with political theater. Banners of a dozen civilizations floated in controlled gravity, security teams moved in complex patterns, and smiles hid centuries of bloodshed. Zyra stepped forward proudly. Elias followed silently. To her, he was already forgotten. Far above, unseen by all, 12 figures adjusted their cloaks and synchronized their chronometers. The contract was clear. The princess would not leave the moon alive. And the human escort was not part of the equation. Caraxes was a world built for neutrality, its halls carved from obsidian crystal and illuminated by bioluminescent veins. Every step echoed with the weight of history. Princess Zyra moved through the grand concourse, surrounded by ambassadors and guards, her mind brushing against theirs, tasting intent and deception like faint flavors. She sensed arrogance, fear, ambition, but no immediate threat. Satisfied, she dismissed any lingering caution. Humans worried too much, she thought, always anticipating disaster. Elias remained at her side, half a step back, eyes scanning reflections in polished walls, the rhythm of footsteps, the subtle changes in air pressure. He noted how certain guards moved out of sync, how a maintenance drone lingered too long near a load-bearing arch, how the soundscape shifted as crowds thickened. The first sign came as a flicker in the overhead lights, brief enough to be ignored. Zyra did ignore it, Elias did not. He touched a small control at his wrist, a silent signal sent through encrypted channels. Internal systems responded, unlocking contingencies long buried. As the princess entered the Hall of Accord, applause rose like a wave. Delegates took their seats, translators hummed softly, and the ceremony began. words of peace layered over centuries of war. Zyra stepped to the central dais, her voice clear and resonant. She spoke of unity, of enlightened governance, of the luminary guiding lesser races towards stability. Her confidence filled the chamber. Then the applause died mid-echo. The temperature dropped, security fields flickered, and 12 figures materialized from cloaking veils along the upper balconies, weapons unfolded with mechanical grace, each assassin marked by the sigil of the Null Covenant, killers who specialized in eliminating psychic elites. Screams erupted, guards raised shields too late, energy bolts tore through the air, aimed directly at the dais. Zyra felt the sudden void where her foresight should have been, a psychic blind spot engineered to counter her kind. Panic surged. For the first time in her life, she felt truly vulnerable. Before she could react, a human hand seized her wrist and yanked her down behind the dais. A fraction of a second before lethal fire scorched the space where her head had been. "Stay down," Elias said sharply. Gone was the polite tone, replaced by command steel. He moved. What followed unfolded faster than Zyra could comprehend. Elias vaulted over the barrier, using a fallen guard's weapon with effortless familiarity. His movements were precise, economical, lethal. He anticipated angles, exploited reload cycles, used ricochets and environmental hazards with terrifying efficiency. Assassins fell one by one, some before they even realized they had been engaged. Elias used the chaos, the screams, the confusion as cover, never wasting motion, never hesitating. Zyra watched from the floor, disbelief freezing her thoughts, her psychic senses useless against the null fields, yet this human moved as if he could see the future. Within minutes, silence reclaimed the hall. 12 bodies lay scattered across balconies and aisles. Smoke curled toward the ceiling, alarms blared in the distance. Elias stood alone, breathing steady, weapon lowered, scanning for secondary threats. Only then did he turn back to the dais. "Your Highness," he said calmly, "the area is secure for now." Zyra stared at him, her world tilted off its axis. The worthless Escort had just silenced 12 of the galaxy's most feared assassins. And she had no idea who he truly was. Security teams flooded the Hall of Accord, medics attended the wounded, diplomats were hurried away under guard, and the summit dissolved into chaos. Princess Zyra was escorted to a secure chamber, her thoughts still racing, replaying every movement, every impossible second. Elias stood near the entrance, weapons secured, posture once again unassuming, as if the massacre had never occurred. "Who are you?" Zyra demanded finally, her voice trembling despite her effort to steady it. No human moves like that, no being moves like that without augmentation or foresight. Elias met her gaze, and for the first time she sensed something from him, not psychic energy, but gravity, the weight of experience, of choices carved in blood. "I am what humanity sends when it cannot afford failure," he said. "We do not advertise it." Zyra folded her hands, struggling to reconcile her assumptions with reality. "The Null Covenant specializes in killing minds like mine," she said. "They should have overwhelmed you." "They expected panic," Elias replied. "They expected targets to freeze when their advantages were stripped away. Humans learned long ago how to fight without advantages." Silence stretched between them, heavy and unfamiliar. "You saved my life," Zyra said softly, the words strange on her tongue. "Why?" "Because it was my assignment," Elias answered. Then after a pause, "And because killing you would destabilize 3 sectors and lead to a war that would consume billions." The simplicity of his reasoning stunned her. No pride, no demand for gratitude, just outcome and consequence. Zyra realized then how narrow her worldview had been. She had measured worth by psychic glow and ancient bloodlines, never by resilience or restraint. Over the following hours, debriefings and investigations unfolded. Evidence confirmed the assassins had bypassed multiple layers of security, targeting Zyra specifically. The council praised their safeguards, quietly ignoring how close they had come to disaster. Elias was questioned, by half a dozen intelligence agencies. He answered what he could, withheld what he must. His records were sealed behind classifications older than some civilizations. Later, as night cycles dimmed the lights of the station, Zyra requested a private audience with her escort. "You could have left," she said, watching the stars beyond the viewport. "Many would have." "I could have," Elias agreed, "but humanity learned another lesson early on. Running from responsibility only ensures it chases you." Zyra turned to him, studying his face, the lines of fatigue etched by years of vigilance. "I misjudged you," she admitted, "and your people." Elias inclined his head slightly. "That is common." A faint smile touched her lips, not mocking this time, but thoughtful. "Perhaps the galaxy has as well." For the first time since leaving Aurelian Prime, Zyra felt something new, not superiority, not fear, but curiosity. And respect. The days following the assassination attempt reshaped the political landscape. Alliances shifted, accusations flew, and investigations uncovered layers of conspiracy that reached far beyond the Null Covenant. Princess Zyra found herself at the center of attention, both as a target and as a symbol of survival. Elias remained by her side, unobtrusive yet ever-present. Other delegates began to look at him differently now. Whispers followed his steps, curiosity replacing dismissal. Zyra observed him closely, noticing the discipline in his routines, the way he mapped every room, the quiet kindness with which he treated service staff and junior guards. There was no cruelty in him, only readiness. One evening, as they walked along a sealed observation corridor, stars drifting like frozen embers outside, Zyra spoke again. "You fight like someone who expects not to be thanked," she said. Elias considered this. "Expectation complicates action," he replied. "We do what needs doing, the rest is noise." "In my culture," Zyra said, "heroism is celebrated endlessly, names sung for centuries." "In mine," Elias answered, "the best heroes are forgotten because remembering them means something went wrong." The words lingered between them, heavy with unspoken history. Zyra realized that Elias carried the weight of entire worlds that would never know his name, battles that would never be recorded, sacrifices that would never be honored, and yet he bore it without bitterness. Her initial disdain felt childish now, almost shameful. When the council reconvened under heightened security, Zyra spoke differently. Her rhetoric softened, her vision broadened. She referenced resilience alongside enlightenment, adaptability alongside tradition. Some elders frowned, others listened carefully. Elias watched from the periphery, expression unreadable. Another threat never came, perhaps because word had spread, perhaps because those who had planned the assassination now reconsidered the cost. On the final day of the summit, as delegations prepared to depart, Zyra approached Elias with a small, formal gesture of gratitude, a luminary crystal token symbolizing life debt. "I offer this not as obligation," she said, "but as acknowledgement." Elias accepted it carefully, surprised. "Thank you, Your Highness." "Zyra," she corrected gently, "if I am to learn, I must begin by listening." A rare smile crossed Elias' face, brief but genuine. In that moment, two vastly different worlds found a point of balance, not through power or dominance, but through understanding earned under fire. The return journey to Aurelian Prime was quieter, reflective. Princess Zyra spent long hours gazing at the stars, contemplating the fragility beneath grandeur, the unseen hands that held civilizations together. Elias remained the same, vigilant, composed, content to fade into the background once more. As the spires of her homeworld came into view, Zyra turned to him one last time. "When history records this summit," she said, "it will speak of speeches and treaties, not of you." Elias nodded. "That is as it should be." "But I will remember," Zyra said, placing a hand over her heart in a gesture of sincerity, "and I will ensure my people remember that worth is not always luminous. Sometimes it is quiet, disciplined, and human." Elias met her gaze, a hint of emotion flickering before he masked it. That may be the highest honor I have received." They parted at the docking bay, Princess and Escort no longer divided by misconception, the galaxy unchanged on the surface, yet subtly altered beneath. Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, threats still brewed, shadows still gathered, and humanity would once again send its silent guardians into the dark. And somewhere in the halls of power, an alien princess would never again mistake silence for weakness, nor humanity for worthless. Though the summit had ended and the official danger passed, the events on Caraxes refused to fade into memory for Princess Zyra. Back on Aurelian Prime, she resumed her duties, councils, ceremonies, endless debates beneath crystal domes. Yet her thoughts often drifted to quiet corridors and a human who stood watch without being seen. Rumors spread despite efforts to suppress them, fragments of truth whispered between diplomats and intelligence circles. 12 assassins, neutralized by a single human escort, most dismissed it as exaggeration, some as propaganda, a few as a warning. Zyra noticed subtle changes in how other species addressed humanity. Questions became cautious, negotiations more measured. The humans had done nothing publicly, yet their shadows stretched further than any declaration. Elias had departed without ceremony, reassigned before accolades could form, his presence on Aurelian Prime lasting only hours after arrival, long enough to report, confirm stability, and vanish again into classified darkness. Zyra requested access to sealed archives, something she had never done before. She studied human conflicts, not the victories they boasted, but the wars they survived, the losses they endured, the strategies born from scarcity and desperation. She learned of battles where humans fought without air, without light, without hope, adapting, enduring, refusing to yield, not because they believed themselves superior, but because surrender meant extinction. For the first time, she understood. During a High Council session weeks later, an elder dismissed human influence as temporary, a species riding luck and stubbornness. Zyra interrupted him, her voice calm yet unyielding. "Luck does not repeat itself across centuries," she said, "and stubbornness does not build interstellar networks. Humanity survives because it learns faster than it bleeds." Silence followed, heavy and uncomfortable. Some elders resented the shift, others quietly recalibrated their assumptions. The galaxy listened, even when it pretended not to. Far away, Elias moved through another station, another assignment, another quiet war unseen by history, yet occasionally he remembered the alien princess who had looked past the uniform and seen the man beneath. That memory, rare and unexpected, stayed with him longer than most. Years later, when tensions flared along the Dominion's outer reaches, Princess Zyra insisted on human observers during negotiations, not as symbols, but as partners, a radical notion that reshaped alliances. History would later mark this period as the beginning of balance, though no single name would be credited. In a distant corridor of a nameless outpost, Elias received a brief transmission, encrypted, personal, rare. It was a simple message from Zyra, no titles, no formality, only words. "The galaxy has not grown kinder, but it has grown wiser. Thank you for teaching me the difference." Elias read it once, then deleted it, not from indifference, but from discipline. Attachments were dangerous in his line of work. Still, as he prepared for his next mission, adjusting gear in silence, he allowed himself a moment of reflection. Worth was never loud, never radiant, never announced. It was found in the space between disaster and survival, in the hand that pulled another from the line of fire, in the choice to stand when vanishing would be easier. Some legends were carved into monuments, others walked quietly among the stars, unseen, unnamed, indispensable. And somewhere, an alien princess, who once believed herself above all others, now ruled with humility, earned through bloodless seconds of truth. While somewhere else, a human escort stepped back into the shadows, carrying the weight of worlds that would never know how close they came to falling. Comma by comma, silence held the line.